back. Well, when it comes to competition in Canada, a few big industries come to mind, and not in a good way. Banking, telecom, airlines, they're heavily regulated and they have a very few dominant players. Is that a uniquely Canadian story? Matthew Boswell is Canada's Commissioner of Competition. Thank you for being with us.
Great, Amanda.
Commissioner, we do have these industries. We all know them well. The banking industry is an interesting one because it could be that the lack of competition is one of the reasons we didn't see the risky behavior that led to the great financial crisis. So there may be some benefits to having cozy players in an industry who kind of don't have to take, the chances that they might. Having said that, when we think of those industries, are we right as Canadians to say we're more concentrated than we need to be in some of these key sectors?
Well, I think so. I think there are opportunities to encourage or to open the door to international competitors to come in and drive more competition in various sectors across our economy. And I think that's important. That's an important thing that we should be discussing and considering what the trade-offs are and what the benefits are in those trade-offs.
So one place, of course, that we might do that is make a change around ownership rules. We do protect some Canadian sectors from foreign ownership. Should that change? Is that a way to introduce that element of foreign interest?
Well, Amanda, what we at the Bureau think should be happening in Canada, and this is kind of the third prong of our belief of how we can turn this ship around, is that we need to have a whole of government approach to competition in this country. That means all levels of government and everybody thinking about how we can enhance competition. So one element of that, of course, is considering foreign investment, foreign direct investment and ownership in Canadian businesses or participation in Canadian industries. Another element of that, of course, is interprovincial trade barriers. But there are barriers to competition. There are regulatory barriers to competition throughout our economy. We're the second worst country in the OECD for regulatory barriers to competition. And we need to put in the effort, and it's not going to happen overnight, but to put in the effort with a whole of government approach. And that includes provinces, territories, municipalities, and the federal government. Say, okay, how do we fix this? How do we make competition a key pillar of our economy, not the elephant in the room?
One of the other places this comes up is around mergers and acquisitions and the so-called efficiencies defense or test. Just explain to viewers who may not be deep into this what we're talking about there and how you might change how mergers are evaluated so that we get more competition.
So the efficiencies defense in a nutshell allows anti-competitive mergers, so mergers that could increase prices, decrease choice, decrease innovation, to go ahead if certain efficiencies that come out of those mergers outweigh and offset, is the language used, outweigh and offset the anti-competitive effects. So you can have harm to consumers, go ahead if efficiencies, that is, for example, cutting jobs, cutting duplicative IT systems, all that stuff, if they outweigh the anti-competitive effects, it's a total outlier in the world, Amanda, this efficiencies defense. We've been calling for it to be repealed for years. There's a bill in front of Parliament right now that does just that would repeal the efficiencies defense. And we're watching very closely. In fact, I testified in front of a parliamentary committee on Monday night on that particular bill and some of the positive changes that it would make to competition law in Canada to help the Bureau protect consumers. Competition is the best protection consumers can have in our society.
So working to remove that, I have to ask you whether the horse is out of the barn on this. Some really big, could you come up with I won't ask you to do it, but a short list of big mergers that you would not have allowed if this had not been in place?
Sure. There's a great example. It's Superior Connexus, which is chemicals and propane and that sort of stuff. several years ago, where because of the efficiencies defense, the Bureau had to let it proceed. We didn't challenge it in court because the efficiencies were clearly going to outweigh the anti-competitive effects. But the merger was also under review in the United States, and it was blocked in the United States. So it shows quite clearly the flaw in this particular defense to anti-competitive mergers.
So if we do introduce this and we're getting lots of pushback from industry, do you think are there big mergers ahead that it could change? It's hard to imagine any huge mergers in the industries I just listed off. Some of them you actually we should note, just recently tried to block. So we do know that you're actively trying to stop some big mergers in telecom, for instance. But are there anything still to come that you could do that with?
It's not hard to envision a scenario where in a boardroom, multiple boardrooms in this country, where if the efficiencies defense isn't available, that deal will never get out of the boardroom, because it will be sort of clear, I would hope, to the folks in the boardroom that it's an anti-competitive merger. It's going to increase concentration. It's going to increase prices, lower choice, all those things, and that they won't have the efficiencies defense to rely on.
We're going to take a quick break. Still ahead, new businesses are a sign of vibrancy in any economy. Here, Canada's not doing so well either. Stay with us.